Hopefully this is working. I think I have the actual video like pulled up on the side here, so I think it's on a minor delay. Let's see. Let's see how this is. Okay. Hi. Hello. Welcome to my first ever live stream. I'm actually kind of nervous, so I have never hosted one of these on my own. But I'm super excited because the last time I did one with Brielle, that was so much fun. And I actually got a lot of writing done for the first time in a while. So I'm very excited to host my own here. But yeah, all credit to Brielle because honestly, I would not have thought to do any of these without her. And if this goes well, then hopefully I can make it a monthly or twice every month, bi-monthly sort of thing. But yeah, oh my gosh, so many people. Hi. Yes, thank you, Laura. That is very helpful. Okay, glad y'all can see and hear me. Okay, so before we jump right into it, I want to do today some like 20-minute sprints. My goal for this stream or this session, basically I'm treating it like a live writing session, is to just get chapter 19 and chapter 20 of Moths done. Moths is my dark academia adult fantasy book that I'm currently revising to query with. And it really needs to be done, and I've really fallen behind. So we are going to try, or I'm going to try to get back on top of that. And we'll see. We'll see how I do. And yeah, I guess now I'm just curious what you guys are working on. If anyone wants to drop that in chat, just get a little warmed up here so I'm a little less nervous to just sit here and write for the next hour or two. Lynn and the iconic sunset lamp. Yeah, I finally dug it up and I haven't been using it in my videos lately because I couldn't find like a good space for it in this area that I've been filming in, but she's back, kind of. For me, there's only 9 people in chat. I don't think those numbers are realistic, and I'm sure people will trickle in. We've just started. I don't really mind. However many people come in is however many people come in. Two murder mysteries, one contemporary, and one is dark academia fantasy. Oh, that's so exciting. Dark academia siblings. I should work on my book. Yes, you should. Take this time, follow along on the sprints for as much as you can. No pressure, but it's definitely been productive for me to do these with other people. Working on the second draft of my novel. Perfect. Working on a new idea for my 3D art portfolio. That is so cool. What kind of 3D art? Like digital or I just forgot the word. Like carvings or anything physical? Holy cow, for the first time, I'm not late to a live stream. I'm always late or I always miss them, so I watch a lot of replays. Working on revising a dark academia fantasy novel for an R&R in the query trenches. Yay, that's so exciting. I feel like dark academia is definitely hot right now, which is why I am trying to finish and start querying. I'm trying to figure out how someone dies in a comedic way. Very interesting. I hope you figure that out. I'm working on a tragic fantasy, finished the outline process, and I'm currently on chapter 2. Nice. I'm also working on a fantasy with warrior princess vibes. I don't quite know what that is, but that already sounds super cool. Working on a queer Southern Gothic. Oh, beautiful. Just getting into the second act. That's great. Actually answering right blur tags that I got behind on. Is writing Tumblr still a thing? I was on it for a brief, like a hot second before I got agented for the first time. And I remember it was pretty vibrant then, but I kind of thought Tumblr was dead. But I'm glad to hear that it's still thriving. Science fantasy, 4 main characters. This story's my pride and joy. That's great. I feel like it's very important, especially for like a fantasy project, which I feel like you put so much thought and work into the world building, and all of this like extra work goes into just manufacturing this new secondary world or, primary world or whatever. I feel like it's very important to be passionate. Was anyone at Rachel Wright's live stream today? I was not, unfortunately. I love her though. She's amazing. I just finished the first book in my fantasy series, so I'll be starting book 2. Awesome. That's so cool. Like already writing a series. I wish that were me. Nice digital 3D. Ooh, post-apocalyptic fantasy. I might not write a lot because I just got back from working a 9-hour shift, but I'll try. Any amount that you get done is, that's what I'm here for. That's my goal for today is to just get a couple people to write a little bit and also to get myself to write a little bit. I'm working on the 3rd chapter of my adult contemporary novel. Great. There's such a diversity of genres here. I really like that. Brainstorming a contemporary fantasy, kind of like Anastasia with vampires. Very cool. Planning a circus mystery book. Nice. Currently struggling to pick a project to commit to. Oh my gosh, I understand this feeling. I like to think ahead, so I'm kind of starting to think about what project I'll work on after I'm, done with Moths, and I genuinely cannot decide. Like, I cannot choose. Nice. I'm assuming this is about the writing Tumblr. Yeah, I'm glad it's still a thing. Not a writer, just a fan of your writing. Thank you. Currently studying, but I'm glad to have your live playing in the background. Yeah, if this is good background noise for any studying, any like kind of quiet, chill, focused time, then that's also good. Your videos have been so helpful. Thank you. That's like one of my favorite things to hear. Doing final edits before I send out queries. Exciting. It's a middle grade horror. That is so fun. Okay. I'm just gonna respond to a couple more here, and then I'm probably gonna jump into the first sprint because I am very impatient to start working on this book again. Space Western, that is so cool. That's a genre that I feel like, or subgenre, I guess, that I feel like could be so great, has so much potential, but we're just not seeing a ton of it in like mainstream literature as much. And then working on a second draft of a labyrinthine dystopian fantasy. So it's set in a labyrinth, I'm assuming. That's really cool. Yep, again, the passion, you'll get there as long as you love it. Really into the royal family and rumored survivor at the moment. Okay, just a couple more. College set YA fantasy. That's cool. I like college settings in young adult. I feel like there is a definite gap there. Working on a fantasy romance on Fae and Dragons. That's cool. I feel like I haven't seen those combined in a really long time, actually. Still working on a lot of world building. Yep, world building. Oh my gosh. Wrote 1,700 words earlier today on a new fantasy manuscript. It's Camelot/Arthurian legend retelling. Oh, that is cool. You guys have such cool stuff going on. I'm very excited for you. All right. Well, as for me, I have not been super productive this past week. So, again, I'm just trying to get back into it. Also, sorry if my line of sight is switching around a lot because I have the webcam set up here, but my computer is here. So you might see me looking down a lot. I recently re-outlined my 4th act because it was messy, like just genuinely one of the messiest things ever. Looking back on it, I was just stunned that I had gotten to this point, but I've re-outlined it. I'm pretty happy with the new structure. I think it's going to work really well. I just have to put it into motion, and that's a lot of cutting and pasting and moving chapters around and then editing them to make sure that the sequence of events is like good. Oh, hi, Brielle. Oh, thank you for supporting my first stream. I was saying it's like all because of you because our joint stream was really fun for me. But yeah, I have the new outline, so I just have to start working on it, but I've been procrastinating because it is very like sorry if you can hear my partner yelling at his friends online. It is kind of, a hassle to do the big edits when I thought that I wouldn't need to do as many on this, but that's fine. You know what? It's all part of the process. So I'm going to start the first timer. I do like a 20-minute sprint. I generally find that I can get a little bit more done in that extra 5 minutes. So we'll do a 20-minute and then we'll kind of see how things go. So let me just do that. And I'll start it in a second here. So yeah, pick up your pens or start typing, and we will do that, I guess, in silence for the next 20 minutes. So sorry. Yes, I left the mic on for my typing noise, but also I could definitely hear my partner yelling in the background. So I lowered the volume a little bit. Sabrina, thank you, goodness. Nice, 25,000, good job. Oh, sorry, I didn't notice it ended. Alright. Great job, everyone. Thank you so much, Sabrina, for the money. I don't even know how that happened. Oh, a super. Thank you so much. That's super generous. You did not need to do that. Um, so yes, how did everyone's 20 minutes go? Personally, I got a little stuck in mine because I probably should have reviewed what I had previously written for this chapter before hopping on and doing a sprint, but it is what it is. So this was a lot of looking over my notes and looking over what I had previously written. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but all of the chapter titles in mods are in French, and my French is okay, but I like to always double check it as much as I can. And it really slows me down sometimes. I don't know why I chose this option. Um, Trying to work on outlines for 7 books at the moment. Oh my gosh, you are stronger than I am, but that is amazing. Got through 3/4 of a chapter. Good job, B. That is nice progress. I'm jealous. Finally worked past a stubborn plot hole. Best feeling. So good. Um, oh, a light read through. Still, that's really good for 20 minutes. That's amazing. Spent the entire sprint looking for face claims for characters. Yeah, I'm glad you found them, but it really do be like that sometimes. It really do. Working on a new outline for a short story, getting more motivation from you right now. Good, I'm glad. That's what this is for, to motivate myself, to motivate you guys, and to get some words in. Haven't written for ages because of exams. Yeah, I'm about to go back into school again in about less than a month here, actually, and I'm kind of nervous that it's going to really cut into my like writing and YouTube time, which I do have to prioritize YouTube because it's basically my sole form of income at this point. So, yeah, but I don't know if that means that I won't write as much. So, just trying to finish this book as quickly as I can. Um, Only got about 150, but I broke 20K in this draft. All good things. 150 is nothing, it's not too shabby at all. Wrote about 250 words, also very amazing, very nice. Worked on my logline and a query letter type of thing to get an idea where the story is headed at the moment. Yeah. Yeah, it's always good to just plan things out. I like to write synopses and just general summaries of my stories because it's really nice to have the whole story in one place like that. Working on my revision plan going into draft 2. Awesome. Okay, I am going to very briefly, for like 1 minute, head out here, and I will be literally right back. The stream is not over. I just need to grab something real quick. But here, let me just mute myself and stop the camera, and I'll be back in literally 2 minutes. Okay, I'm back. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Putting together your font colors and highlighters. Oh, that's really smart to sort of like color code different characters' names and pieces of dialogue. That's really smart. 268 words, very nice. Oh, sorry. Just had to grab something real quick. Um, let's see. Okay. just wrote the heading for chapter 20 and it's blowing my mind. Nice. Like the title of the chapter or like a little how am I forgetting the word right now when people put like a quote or something right at the start of the chapter? Let me know. I'm curious. All right. Um, yeah, you can very much tell this is my first stream because I did not come with any topics prepared to talk about or anything like that. But I am, yeah, I'm kind of getting more and more nervous about querying. Yes, drafting a query for a new adult project, Sabrina. You and me both. We're gonna get through this. Um, and I feel like it's really interesting because I did have a literary agent before this, so I queried and was successful back in like 2018. It was my first year of college, like my first quarter of college. And so I've been through it, but I feel like the landscape has changed so much. And I originally got my agent and basically did everything through DV Pit, which was a pitch event on Twitter back in the day. It doesn't exist anymore. And it was specifically for like authors from marginalized backgrounds. And pitch events like that don't really happen anymore, as far as I'm aware. They tried to move that one onto Discord, and it was apparently not super well organized, which, you know, you have to give them a little grace. That's a really big shift. And I feel like doing something like that through Discord is so much less conducive than doing it through Twitter. Um, so stuff like that, like the pitch events that help me get an agent, just don't exist anymore. And it's kind of like I'm stepping into an unknown, but also at the same time, I do kind of know what's going on. And like, I do have expectations for how it works, but like, what if those expectations are wrong? So I'm just really afraid to be wrong. But I'm hoping that the fact that Moths does have a dark academia twist to it and is, in my opinion, a really strong book. And also, I'm going into adult fantasy, which I previously was writing young adult. Let me answer some questions here instead of rambling. Only just stopped because I had gotten into the heads. I'm sorry. Yes, we will start that very soon. Oh, a Discord for a whip. That's really smart. I usually use like, well, I've been using Milanote to plan some of my future projects, but also just like writing things down on paper. But then, of course, I lose the paper, so that kind of blows. But Discord is really smart. I feel like that's a really unique way to organize your information. Oh, sorry. Epigraph. Yes, thank you. The little quotes that go into in between acts and before chapters are called epigraphs. Thank you very much, B. Oh. Do you mind if I ask why you parted ways with your first agent? Yeah, it was a bunch of reasons. So that actually wasn't my first agent. The agent that I queried to and was signed by left agenting, like left the profession entirely, like 2 or 3 years in, like just at the start of the pandemic, basically. And so around pandemic time, excuse me, I got shuffled into a new agent and they were really great, like especially editorially, I feel like we were a really good fit. But just like 5 years of having an agent, I was agented from like November 2018 to I want to say June 2023. So it was pretty recently. In that 5 years, there was no progress on anything. I felt like editors were taking a really long time to get back to us. And it was, I don't know. I also, at the same time of being like frustrated with my career, I was also like, I don't want to write young adult anymore. And the agent that I had when I dropped my agent, which sounds really harsh, when I decided to part ways with my agent, had not really had any experience with adult fiction, like editing it or submitting it. Most of their authors, as far as I knew, were middle grade and young adult. And so, yeah, I decided that I wanted to try something new, get kind of a fresh start, and prioritize adult fantasy and science fiction. So I've kind of had to start building my career up from scratch, which kind of sucks, but I've been learning a lot about writing and I'm really confident in my craft at this point. And I've been having a good time with the stories I've been writing. Like, I feel invigorated to write them. I'm excited about my ideas. Adult is such like a better fit for me at this stage in my life because when I started writing, I was obviously much younger. So young adult made sense then. Now adult is kind of, how I think and what I read. Um, Sorry, I get very dehydrated when I talk. So there was just a bunch of factors that I had to consider, and even though I'm still not agented, like freshly agented, I'm very happy with my decision. And that second agent also did ultimately leave agenting, which I guess they'd been thinking about for a little bit as well. Yeah, everything has changed so much, and I hear so many things from other authors. Yeah, I the landscape is definitely very different in terms of publishing and like wait times and everything. I think wait times is the big thing that has been throwing people the most is it takes quite a long time for agents and editors to get back to you. They still do pitch events on X/Twitter. I mean, I'm glad to hear that genuinely, but I don't think I'm ever going to go back to social media outside of Instagram, which is just where I kind of keep a personal photo diary of various things that happen to me in various places I go. And obviously YouTube, but I don't really consider that social media as much. Do you have any short stories published? Do you feel like it will come up in querying? Yes, I do have two short stories published, and one has had like a little bit of. This sounds very weird to say, but like has been submitted for consideration for awards. Um, and yeah, I mean, I feel like most people do mention their previous publications in a query letter. It's kind of like a resume. I don't think it'll necessarily push the needle that much because a lot of people have published stories and a lot of people have done the whole literary magazine thing. I also currently volunteer for literary magazines. So, like stuff like that, I would even include my volunteer work to be like, hey, I read a lot, I know how to edit, and I know how to edit for other people, and I'm familiar with the market and the landscape. I love Milano. I use it for all my outlining and then use Scrivener for drafting. Yeah, Milano is really nice. I really like it. I like Scrintle too, but that's a different, like they activate different parts of my brain. Scrivener, I'm a grandma, so when I draft, it's literally like a blank Google Doc and I don't format it or anything because I can't handle the distractions. But I do have Scrivener and I might try to use it again at some point. Get so lost with the pitch events currently on Twitter. Never sure how we're supposed to boost people's pitches because everyone has different roles. Yeah, that makes sense. That was a problem, or not a problem, but just something that I feel like people had trouble with back in the heyday of Twitter pitch events because, like, yeah, they all do have different roles. Like, DV Pit would let you do, what, three different pitches for the same book in a day, but then some would only let you do one, and some had very specific tags that they used. What made you make the switch from YA to adult? Just like my reading taste changed. I think what happened for me is that I was reading a lot of young adults specifically through NetGalley, so I was getting approved for a lot of e-arcs for young adult because that is what I'd previously been reading. And in my head, I was like, oh, these books are getting worse and worse. But what actually was happening is that I was growing out of the target audience. Like now I'm at a point where I can very much read a YA book and be like, I would recommend this to a student or, any teenager in my life. But it's not the kind of story that tickles my fancy necessarily. And it's not the kind of story I get much out of because thematically and in terms of voice and plot structure and characters, they're all geared toward or are written for a younger audience. I'm not a teenager anymore, so that's not me anymore, and that's okay. So as my reading taste changed, my writing taste also changed, and in particular, being a fantasy writer in young adult fantasy, I can feel my voice going. It's so funny. In young adult fantasy, you're very much kind of going to end up focusing on characters and romance, especially in the current market. I am a character first writer for sure, but as I've gotten older and as I've read more complex and intricate and politically centered fantasies, I've definitely paid a lot more attention to those aspects in my own work and in my worlds. So, for example, I'm about to start adapting or revising a young adult fantasy that I previously had die on submission to editors to be an adult fantasy, like an adult epic fantasy. And to do that, it's mainly going to be expanding the world building. And I'm really excited to do that and have like a bigger sandbox to play in, and more intricate themes and complex problems for the adult characters to handle. Sorry, I'm so behind on comments. That's tough. It sounds like you made the right decision. Yeah, thank you. I agree, kind of. It's a very hard leap to take. I've known a lot of people who had to do it, and it doesn't necessarily mean the agent isn't good at their job. It just means that maybe they don't know how to pitch your book, or maybe they don't have the right set of connections to get your book sold, or maybe they're not, if they're editorial, they're not necessarily guiding you in the right direction to make that book more marketable. There's a bunch of different factors. Sometimes people just aren't a fit, even though someone else might be a fit. Do you think all the stories you've written prior to Moths helped you get to a point where you feel like you could really get Moths to a point you'd be excited about? Yeah, definitely. I kind of have been thinking about writing in terms of like experience points, like in a video game. I feel like every short story that I finish from beginning to end and that I submit and that it kind of teaches me something new. And it also kind of shows me or like pulls away another layer and shows me the kind of stories that I want to be writing. So, yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, Esther Park is kind of maybe awards consideration, but one is the Pushcart, which has so many people, so many amazing stories are submitted for consideration because I think every magazine can submit like 6 pieces, and there's a lot of magazines that submit, so it's not like actually like, I'm definitely not I don't know, I'm not gonna win a Pushcart prize, but it's really cool that it was nominated. Yeah, Google Docs. I wish I had access to Word. I might again now that I'm a student. I had student access during my undergrad years, and I did use Word pretty religiously, but then they revoked my access the minute I stopped being a student. So I got kind of upset about that because I just couldn't even like open my documents. It was very annoying. I love using Obsidian. Oh. Yeah, the mind mapping thing is also what Screenwriting does, which is very helpful. I've not heard of Obsidian, that's cool. I find some of these YA books now are very nostalgia driven for adult readers versus teens, so it's a very weird state right now. Yeah. Yeah, I have complicated feelings about that. I did make, like, a very lighthearted YouTube short slash TikTok. I don't use TikTok anymore, but I did make a short video that was basically like, there's young adult books that are written for the 26-year-old teenage girls, and there's young adult books written for actual teenagers, and there's a very steep divide between them. I feel weird reading, like, specifically young adult books that feature teenage characters that are kind of almost romantasy. I feel like that's sort of a thing. Those books do make me kind of uncomfortable because I can tell they're meant for an adult audience. It's a little bit weird for me because I work with teenagers. I work with that target audience, so it's not comfortable for me to read books that kind of write teenagers who are on paper 17 but act like they're 25. And I have noticed more and more of that lately, so it might be that. Have you been seeing dark academia show up on a lot of manuscript wish lists from agents? I don't really pay attention to manuscript wish lists. I think again because I don't really use the kind of like social media that Twitter used to be. But I definitely know it's kind of having its moment right now. Let's see. Oh yeah, a lot of people use Obsidian. That's cool. You know, inadvertent plug for Obsidian, I guess. Oh, is TikTok dead? I did not know that. Nice. Okay, you guys are starting to convince me to check out Obsidian. Lots of dark academia and manuscript wish lists. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. So weird. Yeah. It's so weird, and I agree it's definitely more in the fantasy I can't talk anymore, slash from fantasy side where you get the 18/19-year-olds that feel 30. Yeah, like, I don't know, I feel like I don't wanna gatekeep anything when it comes to writing, but I do feel like if you're going to write young adult or a book about teenagers, then you should kind of have more interaction with actual teenagers outside of, like, your memories of being a teenager, if that makes sense. Like, I just kind of wish that those books that are marketed to teenagers in teenage spaces like TikTok, that they had teenagers in mind. I found out that I've made my own motto when it comes to writing by accident. Oh, the motto is when I write fantasy books, that's just me deleting our world and repainting/remaking our world. Yeah, that's a cool way of thinking of it. I'll never understand why they don't just make the characters 30 and make it an adult category, not YA, so it doesn't get weird like that. Because at least in genre fiction, um, I think a lot more is asked of you to write like a compelling fantasy, if that makes sense. Like in a young adult fantasy, because you're writing for a younger audience, technically, you don't have to worry so much about world building or politics or super, you know, I don't even want to say grown up things, but the things that people who read adult sci-fi and fantasy tend to read them for aren't as big of a concern because it's different audiences. And so I think maybe people are intimidated by that. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of college students' vlogs to help me write my story. Yeah, I feel like knowing how college kids present themselves is a good way to get started as well. Why do you think dark academia has become so popular right now? I don't know. I think it started out with like TikTok aesthetics and it kind of trickled over into people being inspired by those aesthetics and writing books like If We Were Villains or Ninth House. Not saying they were inspired by it, but those things kind of fit that vibe. Um, and as dark academia books become popular and sell well, then publishing demands more dark academia books, so agents demand more dark academia books, and it just is a cycle until the trend dies. So I'm hoping to kind of catch it before it dies, just a little bit. I have been working on moths for like minimum 4 or 5 years, so I kind of jumped on that trend before it was a trend, but obviously I did not finish it fast enough. In other words, the kids are stupid mantra of the marketing world. Yeah, I think it's just like if you're a teenager and you're in high school and you're going literally like basically working a 9 to 5 except you use your brain the whole time and also you aren't getting paid and you get a 45-minute lunch break. Like I didn't have any brain power back then. I was so tired. Also, hormonal and just kind of a silly kid. I was a silly kid. I did not want to read Tolkien. I did not want to read Brandon Sanderson. I still kind of don't. I did not want to read any of those intense books. I wanted something fluffy. I wanted something light. And I still liked fantasy. So I feel like it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm hoping I don't get in trouble for it because there is like a validity to including sexual content in books aimed for teenagers because teenagers do have sex. That is not all, but definitely a fair proportion of them. And they deserve to see that represented and they deserve to see that done well. But there's a fine line between like writing something that titillates adults, that centers around teenage characters, and also like just I don't know, writing sexual content involving kids because it's a part of their life. It's it's interesting. I think one of the books that I saw that did handle it in a way that made me feel like, oh, I could give this to a teenage student to read and not feel like a creep was oh man, I can't believe I'm forgetting the name. It's the I think Margaret Owen. Let me look it up. Yes, Margaret Owen's Little Thieves and Painted Devils had the characters having sex with each other, not to have that be a spoiler, and they are teenagers and it is a young adult book, but it's not like graphic. And also it's done in a way where it's like very realistic because it's super awkward. And I feel like that kind of representation is I'm never gonna see that as a bad thing, but there is a very fine line for me. Regardless of the dark academia trend, we're all dying to read Moths. Thank you. I hope so. I hope that energy continues, but everyone has been super supportive and enthusiastic about that project. Okay, let me just answer a few more and then we'll go right into the sprint. I'm so sorry. When I was a teen, I liked shorter books too, and a lot of these books are now tomes. Yeah, they're so long. Like, what? The Sarah J. Maas books, I haven't really read more of hers, but I was at the bookstore the other day and I saw like Crescent City, and it was like half of my face. It was so thick. It always takes decades for a subgenre to truly solidify. When Donna Tartt wrote The Secret History, it was literary fiction. She was just writing what she knew, which is a bit spooky. Yeah, yeah, very much so. That was written back in the 90s, which I was kind of surprised to find out. As someone who was absolutely celibate as a teen, sorry, not to laugh, but like, it's just funny to see the term celibate. I feel like those are the ones in need of representation right now, you know? Yeah, and I think there's so much YA that there's space for both. Um, but yes, there is like quite a lot of horniness in young adult these days, just from what I've seen. But I think that romance is always going to be a staple of YA. Like, it's very, very rare to find a young adult book without any type of romance or kissing in it at all. Would you consider a story about a teen psychic solving a murder mystery to be YA fantasy? And if not, what would you consider it otherwise? Yeah, I think that would be like a young adult paranormal, or it kind of depends on how almost gritty the setting feels. But that could definitely be like contemporary fantasy, urban fantasy, paranormal, whatever you want to call it, whatever is the trendiest at the time. That's what it is. That's what you're going to call it. Source books got dragged for promoting a young adult with not safe for work artwork for a pre-order campaign. That's weird. That's weird to me. I don't know. Um, my two favorite books in the world are Secret History and All the Pretty Horses, and I just recently learned they were published the same year. I don't know what the second one is, but yeah, like that book is shockingly old. All right, let's go ahead and stop talking about whatever we've been talking about, and just go right into the sprint. So we're going to do another 20 minutes, and I hope that everyone gets a lot done. So let's get started. Ooh, that was aggressive. Sorry. Oh my gosh. So me let me figure out where it's coming from. There it is. Okay, great. So that's another 20-minute sprint down. So how did everyone do? I feel pretty happy. I think I basically just finished chapter 19, which is amazing. Um, there's some tweaks and like typos and stuff, and I could definitely use another little pass here, but the structure is down and I feel good about it. So now I just have to write chapter 20, which is a little bit of a dramatic chapter. I am so sorry. Yeah, that was very loud. Um, oh, there's a question here. How'd you go about building the world for moths? And is it something you are building on in your revisions? Um, It kind of happened in stages. Like I started out with a very loose series of concepts, and then after the first kind of discovery set of impartial discovery drafts, I started to build it up a little bit more and figured out where what the story required of the world. So I think that's always a good place to start, especially if you're a bit more of a discovery writer, which I kind of am and kind of am not, is to just identify what parts of the world your story is going to need to explore and need to get really defined. So for me, that was the magic system and also like kind of the history of alchemists in this world, and their place in the world. So very much like centered on this one concept, like what if alchemists were real and could actually do what they thought they could do, back in the historical times. So yeah, pretty simple, especially with a primary world, because otherwise Moths is pretty much set in a world like our own. Um, so I have fewer words than when we started. It do be like that sometimes. It really does. I'm sorry though, but that just means you probably found words that weren't necessary for your story and you cut them, and that's also progress. Um, Made some progress. Very nice, very nice. Figured out the themes of my story. Very nice. That's always a tricky part for me, is identifying themes, especially I feel like there's macro themes and there's micro themes, and the micro themes are harder for me to hit. 23 more pages to review, then the manuscript will be ready to resubmit. That's amazing. 80% through updating my tarot notes, then I begin a new draft and will keep going for 3 to 5 days. That is very cool. I saw another comment you'd left about tarot, and I'm actually really curious about what you're going to do with those, if you don't mind sharing a little bit. Um, Made a bit of progress, and then everyone's favorite thing in the world happened, which is writer's block. Yeah, I am so sorry. I hope it passes soon. Just one more character for my color code for now. Very nice. Again, I think that's so cool. Like, that's such a cool concept. Worked on some story beats, filled up to the beginning of Act 2, super excited, though my genre is shifting and I don't know what to do about it. Oh well, just letting it flow right now. Yeah, just let it flow. Genre is like a construct anyway. Who even cares about genre? I think that if it shifts into something entirely new, that is totally fine and very interesting. Slow but still progress at a point where I'm considering replotting. Let me up the volume a little bit to make things work better and be more interesting. Yeah, I have kind of hit that point where I've been replotting some sections of this, so you could always like replot sections. Um, but I hope you don't have to replot that much because that is super frustrating, but progress is progress. I'm an extreme plotter and I found that it's made jumping into draft too slow. Yeah. Yeah. Being a plotter is sometimes a problem for me as well. I don't know. With every project, I'm either a discovery writer or pantser plotter. I feel like it changes from day to day. But when I do plot, when I like outline in detail, it's kind of hard for me to see what it's actually going to look like in the story. So it can be very frustrating. Oh, got a little sniffy there. Definitely allergy season right now. I keep forgetting to make myself big like this. I'm so sorry. To make a long story short, My next project needs to be meaningful to my audience, so I asked the YouTube tarot reader to find a message that will be delivered through me. That's really cool. Wow, that's I've never heard of anyone doing that. I hope it goes well. I was inspired by Sarah Lubrat. She did hers in Word, but I'm writing my teleplay in writer duet, so it's kind of easier for me. It's just the setup of the color code that needs a bit of finesse. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't know that Sarah did that. I don't mind replotting that much. I find the process of fixing things to make them work in a better way is so satisfying. Yeah, it is satisfying. I think I just dislike that it is more time added on to the process because I'm already such a slow writer that anything that, like, in my eyes, anything that feels like it's unnecessary and that I should have caught it earlier or expect myself to catch it earlier, I find a little bit frustrating because I'm slow. But yes, I I should learn to appreciate the magic of replotting and revising a little bit more for sure. How do you stop conversations and scenes from feeling overly drawn out while still including important information? So the pacing of dialogue is really tricky. I feel like a lot of it, for me at least, is very much based on gut instinct, unfortunately. So um, one trick that you could try that I personally don't utilize that much because I can kind of hear things in my head is to read your dialogue out loud and see how it reads. If it feels like that conversation is going on too long as you read it out loud, like, is a conversation that's 1 page long? Is it like 3 minutes, 5 minutes? Um, you can kind of get a sense for what feels like you're repeating yourself or what feels like you're taking too long to get to a certain point. So that could be something that you try out, but you might have to experiment a little bit here. I find that most of the time when conversation or dialogue scenes are dragging a little bit in terms of pacing, it's usually due to repetition or kind of circumventing the point. But also remember that your conversation shouldn't just have the utility of giving away information or telling the reader things. It should also include subtext. It should say something about the characters and how they interact and how they feel about each other. So to me, dialogue is very much like a character thing. Um, I don't know if that was helpful. I kind of go on tangents. Like, it's in the near future, but it's very much not sci-fi, at least I don't think so. I don't have much experience in reading sci-fi, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, there is near future science fiction. I feel like a lot of climate fiction can fall into that category as well. So it could be sci-fi or it could not be sci-fi. It all just sort of depends. Like, sci-fi is really such a broad umbrella term. That's interesting. I read tarot regularly. Oh, this is responding to Adam. Sorry. Does anyone ever have that YouTube where if they watch them, they're just like, "I need to write right now"? Because for me, that's me and V. Yeah, I V and her energy really get me invigorated about writing. I also like Chris and Kelly. Obviously, like they're my friends, so I'm a bit biased, but they also get me like really amped up to start writing, especially Chris, because I feel like she's not in a weird way, but she's definitely doing all the things that I want to be doing, like getting an agent and going into traditional publishing. So it's very, very cool and encouraging to see someone go through that and be like, yes, I will just catch up with my friend. So yeah. Um, Random question, but have you ever done screenwriting slash would want to? I took a class once and now can never tell if my idea should be a novel or on screen. Um, Sorry, water break. I have written like stage stuff, but really short because I was a theater kid in high school and college a little bit. So I wrote small scenes basically that we would put on as stage productions a couple times. So I wouldn't say I have any screenwriting experience. I do care about screenwriting. Like, I am very much someone who enjoys film, enjoys television. So I pay attention to like storytelling basics in screenwriting, but I've never actually written a screenplay, although I have thought about it because I am from Los Angeles, so everyone has that crisis at some point. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like it kind of depends. Like, do you think this is something that would benefit from a visual medium, or do you think this is something that would benefit from being written? And sometimes things are very much in the middle of that spectrum. I think it's mm, worth it maybe to just write, like, whichever one you feel like writing at the moment. Like, I think they're very different moods, as in the mood to want to write a screenplay versus the mood to want to write a whole book are 2 different moods to me, so maybe just go with whatever you're feeling and then hope for the best. This is really sweet, thank you so much. So inspirational and their vibe is just great. Thank you. I'm very glad that people think I have a good vibe. Definitely gut instinct. In theory, you can teach natural flow, but having an authorial voice just means practicing how you speak. Then you figure out the most efficient way to deliver the info. Yeah, it is. It is. I think it's something that you can really develop and hone with practice. Just came from your 3 C's video. Thank you. I really like that video. I'm glad that more and more people are finding out about it because I was very proud to come up with the 3 C's. Which I feel like is not an original thought or method of writing. There's definitely different terms for it, but I just felt like that was something that helped it click into my brain. I'm excited to read what you write if you have any books out. If not, do you have anything coming up? I have no books out. I have 2 short stories out, and I'm working toward traditionally publishing my adult fantasy debut, hopefully. So that'll be a long road, but I do have short stories out. I love me a book with a hard to define genre. Honestly, same. I love like genre blending. Anything that's literary but also genre fiction is like the key to my heart. I think that things that aren't very set in their genre or set, you know, I don't even know what I was trying to say, but things that don't have a super defined genre or are pinnacles of that genre are more interesting to me. Like, technically I'm trying to think of one that isn't too niche, but Siren Queen, which is one of my favorite books, by Nevo, and Lord of the Rings are both fantasy books, but they're very different, and it's always a spectrum, and there's always new and different things you can do. And I love it when people do something different, like try to break the mold. If I can ask what made you choose traditional publishing, I don't think I've necessarily chosen it. I am open to the idea of being like an indie author or a self-published author. For me, it's just something that I've been working toward for such a long time because it was the only mode of publishing I really knew about for a long time that at this point, if I don't give it that last little shot, then I will feel like I failed myself. It's the circle of publishing I'm also the most familiar with. So most of the people that I know who are writers, most of the people that I befriended in the early days of writing Twitter or, so on and so forth, mostly writing Twitter, are traditionally published authors or are trying to be traditionally published. So it's almost like not it's not that I haven't considered self-publishing, but it's more that with like the circles and my familiarity and what I've been working toward already, it just makes the most sense for me to be on the traditional publishing route right now. But I'm not completely closed off to self-publishing. I think indie authors are amazing. I think self-publishing is a lot of work. I know it's a lot of work, so that kind of is off-putting to me because all of the marketing and stuff I think would be very stressful for me. Um And sorry, I'm just like reading the side comments as I go. ADHD. Uh, so for me, it is just very much the path I'm on right now, and that's just due to a bunch of different factors that have kind of settled me onto this path, but I'm not completely stuck in it. What even is genre anyway? It's nothing. It's just a label. What are labels? What point do they have? My main advice to anyone who wants to pursue screenwriting, read John Huston's script for The Maltese Falcon, then consider he made every script choice knowing he had to direct the film too. I recently watched The Maltese Falcon for the first time. I didn't love it, but I believe that the script is really good and really detailed. I feel like it was a very well-made film, but just story-wise, I was like, Um, Hi, just arrived. How's your day been going? Yeah, it's been good. I'm really enjoying the stream, so I'm having a lot of fun. And I also made dumplings earlier, so that was fun. Okay, I think I'll do a last one, but make it a short 15-minute little one here. Any other questions or anything before we take off? I hope everyone's ready for this last little push. Um, let's see. When I took a screenwriting course, we studied collateral, which I definitely recommend doing. Oh, I've actually not heard of that. Let me look that up. Oh, yeah, I also haven't taken any screenwriting classes or anything like that. I took, um, no, I didn't take any film classes. That's very interesting. Oh, cool. Oh, this is a more recent film too. That's cool. Just want to thank you for hosting. Well, thank you guys for coming on. I had so much fun. Like, I honestly thought I was going to be so weird, and I do think I'm being a little bit awkward, like more awkward than I normally am on camera after 4 years of YouTube, but it's definitely something that I could see myself doing a couple times a month. All right, let's do the last sprint here, and it's going to be 15 minutes, and I'm going to try to cut it off before it does the scary bell thing. Oh, thank you, Riel. That means a lot because your streams are amazing. All right, let's go. Oh, I caught that one in time. Okay, so I just closed out the timer tab because we are unfortunately going to be officially done here in a second. I'll just stay on for a couple more minutes just to like answer questions you may have or anything like that, just to chat a little. But otherwise, yeah, we're done with sprints. So that round was pretty good. I'm probably honestly going to write a little bit more later tonight because I am definitely feeling the groove a little bit, which is super nice because I have not felt that in a while. So thank you to everyone who helped facilitate that with your presence and your cheer and your good energy. Yeah, I'm super happy to have gotten some work done. Although I feel like I'm gonna have to open a new document because I'm like rewriting chapters and moving stuff around and it's getting really messy, but that's fine. I'll figure that out later. uh, I feel honored to be able to say that my first stream of yours was the first ever stream you did. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been amazing. I know you've been here the whole time, which is super cool of you and nice. Notes are finished. Amazing. Good job. Oh, yeah, I'm so glad it helped out. It helped me out too, so it's kind of a win-win. Sorry, I'm just looking back through my document here, trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah, I think I will have to make a new doc. Ugh. That was fun. I was very productive in writing during this live. Thank you, Sabrina, and thank you for coming on. That was super fun. I'm so glad that you were able to catch this one. I hope you're able to come to future ones. These sprints really motivated me to start planning. I can't read for some reason. These sprints really motivated me to start planning my story, which I've been procrastinating on. So thank you. Honestly, I didn't do much. It was all you. I just hosted a live stream. So I'm really glad that you were able to do that. That was really fun. I haven't been able to just sit and write for months. Yeah, honestly, it's so hard to carve out the time. So it's nice to be able to do this. Color code is finished. Nice. And working on scenes after dinner. Perfect. This has been so nice. Really needed it to get back into writing. Oh no! Out of curiosity, what were the specific things about the Maltese Falcon that left you unimpressed? Unrelated note, good luck with the redo doc. Honestly, just this is like a personal taste thing. Um, it's like one of those older movies where it's like a lot of talking because I mean, I just said this to my partner when we watched it, but I feel like they just got the technology to include like dialogue in movies, and so they were really taking advantage of it. And I feel like if I had been able to kind of put myself in the mindset of, oh, this is the first movie of its kind to do this sort of thing, then I would have been more impressed. But because I have this whole background of seeing films that were obviously like ripping off or very heavily inspired by the groundwork that that movie laid, it's a little bit harder for me to engage with it. I don't know. I'll give it another shot, honestly. But we've been doing this thing where we kind of stopped, but we're gonna pick it up again, hopefully, where we've been watching like a movie that each of us picked for each decade. This is inspired by my friend Kendall. Shout out to Kendall who's not here, but we picked one film from each decade starting in the 40s or 50s, and we've just been watching all of them. So it's our decades movie thing. So highly recommend doing that. Glad I got to pop in and hang out. I've been unable to sleep lately, so writing all day and spending it with cool people is a treat. Not even midway through the chapter I've been writing, but I've had fun. You know what? I hope you got some words in. But yeah, I'm very glad that you got to pop in. Sorry, I'm trying to go through these a little faster because we're about to wrap it up. Uh, yeah. Oh, the time difference. That's good. Yeah, I was worried about the time because I'm in the Midwest, so that's very different from I feel like most people are like East Coast or West Coast. I've been at work this whole stream, so it's been typing ASMR. I'm getting a mechanical keyboard, so hopefully next stream it'll be even more typing ASMR or even more annoying depending on how you feel about typing noises. Yeah, I really liked Casablanca. That movie slaps. It's a really good movie. But generally speaking, I'm not a huge like, I typically don't really like older films, and that's just a personal flaw that I have. Oh, not if you're feeling that the film doesn't have an excuse. Yeah, I guess that's true, it doesn't really have an excuse. Just finished my first book at 13, that's amazing, that's a huge accomplishment. That's really cool. I hope you get to share it with some people in your life. Because I feel like it becomes more real when you share it. And it was honestly how I got close to a lot of my friends around that age in middle school and high school. We were writing and sharing stories and stuff with each other. And now we're friends for life. So it's a really good way to like connect with other people your age who are also interested in writing. 2 a.m. No, I could not do that, but all power to you. Night owls, you guys are stronger than me. I have to be in bed by 11. Love a good click clack keyboard. Yeah, me too. Casablanca is yeah, it's so good. It was, like, way better than I thought it'd be because I feel like sometimes people are like, "Oh, this classic movie is the best thing ever," and I'm like, "Are you just saying that?" But no, that one deserves the hype. Yes, agree that editing really affects pace with films, for sure. Oh gosh. Are you planning to write a new fantasy novel? Yes. Since you guys came to my first ever stream, I will tell you what things I'm trying to decide between really quick. And it's basically so I have one seed of an idea that's probably about 50% of where it needs to be in terms of being outlined and planned. And it's a gothic kind of romantasy. It's a little bit dark and it's about like necromancer houses in a fantasy world that's sort of loosely based off of like Venice in the Renaissance, but a little bit more tech. But the necromancer houses, I'm very much drawing cues from like the Medici's and those folks. So the Borgias, like those kinds of families, like those people. So that's one idea I have. I also really kind of am feeling turning my adult fantasy or young adult fantasy that died on sub into an adult fantasy, and that one is based off of Korean mythology. But I kind of want to move it away from being so heavily Korean influenced because I just feel like I can do more to make the world weirder. Right now, it sort of reads like fake historical Korea, like poorly researched historical Korea with magic thrown in, which is kind of what it is. And I just want it to be better than that. So I'd really expand the world building on that, but the story doesn't need to be tweaked that much. And the other one that I was thinking of is kind of like I think I've mentioned it before. It's kind of like, how am I forgetting all these words, but sort of set in, oh, like a diesel punk fantasy that's a little bit like the Emily Wilde books. Like I'm seeing that dynamic between the characters, um, where one is very much like an academic and the other one is like more of a rogue. So those are kind of the three ideas that I'm deciding between. But I don't know. We'll see. I could also go with something completely different. Um, yeah, that I find all that very interesting. The other part of that is I would need to do a lot more research. because a lot of the stuff surrounding those families and it's, like, kind of sensationalized, so I would kind of draw on the sensationalized aspects because obviously for a fantasy world that's more loosely inspired by them, it's a little bit more fun, but I kind of want to know more about who they really were, like, in real life. Why not all 3? Um, I don't know if that's grammatically correct. I speak the smallest amount of Spanish, or I understand the smallest amount of Spanish known to mankind, but I don't know. I've tried to draft multiple books at the same time, and it's really hard for me to stay, like, in the mindset, so I think it's a little bit faster and smoother for me to, like, draft one at a time, but I might have to just pick a card out of a hat or something. Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. That is gonna be the stream, and I don't know how to end this, but thank you so much to everyone who hopped on. Everyone who's watching the replay too, thank you for doing that. And I hope you guys got some words in, and we'll be doing this again pretty soon, probably before the end of the month, hopefully, because I don't have that much going on right now because school has not started. So thank you again, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.